Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video, and welcome to what I thought was going to be a warm and sunny Florida, but it's unfortunately cold and grim. It's actually warmer today in Colorado than it is here in Naples. I flew down to see my family for the holidays. This is my dad's Tesla Model S, and one of the reasons I actually really wanted to come here was to make this video for you guys, because this is one of the first Jule chargers out there with their new hardware, and super excited to tell you about it. Think it's a really cool idea, but unfortunately I have to start the video off by telling you it doesn't work. And what's crazy is just in our few minutes of being here already, multiple cars have come up here. We've seen a Rivian, a Q4 e-tron, and others all come here to try and charge because the Electrify America station across the street, also only half of the stations are working, and there's a really long line of cars waiting to charge. So the backup for our charging network that we're all relying on doesn't work. If you guys are not realizing how big of a problem this is, I know I go on and on and on about it. We're really going into, one of the worst times to own an electric car in America here, unless yours has a little Tesla badge on it. Not to sound like a fanboy, but their supercharger network works pretty well. I do also have to say their chargers are completely full here in Naples as well. So it's a hard day for everyone to drive an electric car. And at least I'm going to tell you all about this Jule charging installation. So let's get into it. It's pretty cool. 180 kilowatt hour battery storage. You can totally modular do this thing. This is going to be a review of the Jule charging. Just doesn't freaking work. So we woke up this morning coming over here to make this video, and we were driving and I checked on PlugShare, and Jule actually commented on PlugShare. Very nice of them proactively to say, hey, both of these chargers are down, don't come here. So I have to say we knew about the problem before we arrived, and props to them for using PlugShare to let us know about the uptime of their station. So even though we let the car sit low last night, we're at, what are we at? About 8% state of charge, intending to charge up here today. At least we checked PlugShare and we knew before we got here. So no video of charging, but I'm going to walk you through how it all works. It's super duper interesting. I think there's a lot of areas for improvement that I'm finding, but also some things that are just absolutely amazing. So let's first start with this box, because this is really the magic of Jule. For those of you who don't know about the Jule chargers, I believe it's owned by a company called eCAMION. They're based in Ontario. I spoke to them, I think 3 years ago, something like that, very briefly when they were starting, and they actually had chargers in shipping containers and then dispensers around the outside with a battery in the middle. I thought it was such a great idea. But they've really gone hard into installing some of their new generation chargers now for fleet use, heavy use stuff. We're talking high voltage, high current, 600 kilowatt applications in terms of power output for these, for bus charging stations and everything. I think the city of Durham in Ontario uses these to charge their electric buses, which is pretty cool. And it shows, okay, at least they must have convinced someone about the reliability if they're using it for their public transit services. So maybe we just got unlucky that this one doesn't work. In here is a 180 kilowatt hour battery pack, and you can actually link them to as many as you need. Weighs about 8,000 pounds, I think 750 volts. I have to look up the spec sheet and I'll do that for you. The voltage of the battery pack is actually 650 volts dead, 790 volts full, and it's an NMC chemistry. Would have thought they would have used LFP for something like this that can just sit at 100% charge for a long time, but there you go. Come around with me over here. I want to show you this actually. This is super cool. Look at this. Serial number 000001. This is the first one ever made by eCAMION, of course. And you can see max ambient temperature, negative 25 degrees Celsius. Doesn't seem like it would be that great in cold weather, which is surprising because they're a Canadian company. So why aren't these things rated for more? I'm not totally sure. Maybe it's a specific Florida adapted version. Certainly never going to get that cold here. So like I said, inside is a 180 kilowatt hour battery pack. You can feed, in this case, this is the 150 version. The 75 version feeds one charging post. The 150 version, I think this will be the most popular, feeds 2 charging posts. You can see a air conditioning unit to keep the batteries cool, a little drip line just laying out right here. And the thing that I like about this is you'll notice there's no massive transformer around here at all. It's just here. And that is because this is fed anywhere from 10 to 30 kilowatts from the grid. So it's not like it's anything more than just putting in a level 2 station at your house. And that slow charges this up. And then of course it can fast charge the cars. I love the idea of battery buffer for charging. Now, do I like the idea for this particular location? I'm not sure. Maybe it's really hard to get power here in Naples. I wouldn't think. This makes a lot of sense to me for rural areas, areas that don't have a lot of high power infrastructure easily available. You know, one of the problems with actually DC fast charging sites, and we keep asking for more and more chargers and more sites, another topic coming on that video, which should be, should we even install more chargers if nothing works? But, you know, the problem is actually getting power to the sites. So that takes almost more time than anything, working with utilities, getting the high power infrastructure run. This really eliminates a lot of that. So you can do very fast mass deployments. The downside is the complexity of your station goes up. You're now managing a battery pack, of course. The costs go up. I believe I saw somewhere, and I don't know what the exact pricing is. You can go to eCAMION if you want to buy them. So, you know, a lot of downsides, of course, space requirements, things like that. But what's really cool about this is you can actually do some grid-tied stuff. So you can do peak shaving, you can set it up in a whole bunch of different configurations. But one thing that I like is you can actually send the load back to the grid. So if you're at a period of time where, you know, the grid frequency's dropping, everyone's using as much power as possible, you can actually earn some money as a site host and send the power of this back. Now, I also want to mention we've reviewed the FreeWire chargers before and more videos to come there. They actually invited us to their factory, which is super cool. Those are basically an all-in-one unit. They do the DC charging and the battery pack storage all in one box. This, of course, is off-board, and then they run conduit over to this installation. I really like how compact this installation is. These two units are right here on the side of the box. Very, very visually appealing. You roll up and you feel good. It's got these really nice looking J's right here. I love it. I think it looks absolutely awesome. You can actually get them in different colors. You can customize them however you want. It's really, really cool. So in terms of the power output here, these are of course fed from the battery pack inside of this. And they claim it's a 150 kilowatt charger. And in theory, if you have a very high voltage car, yes, sure. Come on over here with me. This is the problem. Right here. If you come on over here, they're using the 200 amp maximum cables, the REMA cables, the same things that ChargePoint CPE 250 use and some others. And these are technically NEVI compliant chargers, which means this is, you know, they qualify for the government funding of meeting the minimum power requirement output for installing this. So you get huge government incentives next year when you start installing this. The problem is, in reality, no one's getting that power. This is a relatively high voltage 400 volt car, Model S. We can use the CCS adapter to charge here. For those who don't know, CCS goes in here, Tesla plug there, works, you know, in theory, if the station works fine. And, you know, we'd only get about 85, 90 kilowatts on a good day. So it's certainly not a 150 kilowatt unit unless you're coming here with like a Lucid Air, or maybe Taycan can't even get up that high, but you need real high voltage to get up there. So I really think it's a bit of a shame, and I'm gonna do a whole video on it, that NEVI compliant chargers are shipping with 200 amp cables. Now, thankfully, Jule has mentioned in 2022, but I think it's an old spec sheet, probably next year, you'll be able to spec these chargers with a 350 amp cable. I'm not sure if it's gonna be liquid cooled or if it will be a boost function. Some cables, you know, will have a 20-minute boost where you can run high current and then they derate. I'm cool with either of those. Most of the boost profiles fit pretty well with the car's charging curve, so I'd like to see something different than this. Also interesting is they're supporting CHAdeMO here. So 50 kilowatt CHAdeMO, I believe 125 amp here. Could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but very, very interesting. Actually, I think I can look right here. Output CHAdeMO, yeah, 125 amp. Output CCS2, which we don't have any CCS2, 165 amp. And output CCS1, 200 amp. Okay, very interesting. Maybe this is saying two different ports for CCS. I'm not totally sure. Maybe it's not actually indicating CCS2, like our Type 2 connections or a Type 1 connection, which we use CCS Type 1 here. Of course, Europe uses Type 2. So the dispensers are really nice. Two different screen sizes you can choose from. There's like a premium offering, like options you can tick up. I believe this one's a pretty base install, although this might be the big screen. I'm not totally sure. You can see this one's totally hosed. It just says waiting for connection. We also called the number just to double check. Actually, some viewers of ours rolled up and they were trying to charge here and they called, and shout out to those guys. They were awesome. And they're nice Rivian, looked like my truck. And yeah, they just said, sorry, you're offline, go somewhere else. They were nice though. It's just like kind of a shame. This one kind of tells you a little bit how they're doing their pricing, which I really like. There's one way to pay here at this station, which is with a NIAX connection. These are absolute total garbage, by the way. I don't believe they're weatherproof. They fail all the time. And these are to blame for like 50% of charging failures in the US. Maybe not that much, but these are just total bull crap. And we need to find a better connection than these NIAX situations. Really hate them. And so thankfully, I believe Jule is offering an Apple and Android Pay solution in place of this, which I think would be kind of a nice situation. What's cool is they actually bill you different pricing based off of how much power you want to grab, so in terms of kilowatts. And I love this. I love the idea of paying more for fast charging, except I only like it when there's a lot of stalls around. You see, in a station like this, where we've already had multiple cars come up in our short period of time, this is a new install, so people are really going to be using this. You want to get cars in and out as fast as possible. Now that's also a bit of a downside with the battery pack, and we'll talk about that in a second, throughput. But you can see it's 12 cents per minute at 75 kilowatts, dirt cheap, I mean crazy cheap. 22 cents a minute at 100 kilowatt and 32 cents a minute for 150 kilowatt. I'm pretty sure EVgo is like 24 cents a minute on their Tesla plan, something like that, but they're in the range. The pricing's very reasonable here. And you can choose your maximum power output, plug your car in and go. Now on this car, I actually wonder if it would make sense just to choose the 100 kilowatt charging, if it would give you the same exact power as the 150 kilowatt charging, because it's a relatively low voltage car. I don't know if this is limiting the amperage output to a maximum of 200 of the cable, or if it's limiting the total output, which like it indicates here. That would be really interesting, but you really wouldn't get much more than 75, so maybe just choose the cheap rate. I don't know how they're actually doing that. That would be, I wish it worked because I'd love to try it. So when we rolled up here, I actually thought this station was going to work because this screen is showing as available, but we actually tried on multiple vehicles this physical CCS connector, this handle right here, which usually these are pretty reliable, I have to say, these REMA cables, as much as I don't like them because they don't have a lot of power capability. They're usually pretty reliable. Would not fit in a Rivian, wouldn't fit in the Model S, and just not machined properly, wouldn't go in. So I don't know if it's been damaged. We looked all around, we can't see any points of tampering or failure, and just won't fit into any of the vehicles. So I wonder if that was even tested upon install. One of the requirements should be, at least, I don't know if it is for everyone, is when you permit a site and you get it online, you should try it with electric cars. I'm pretty sure that's standard practice for now. Right, and my dad behind the camera, thanks for filming, he had mentioned that this one works just fine in terms of latching. It does, we can't find any physical difference between the two. However, this station doesn't work at all. Someone's also mentioned, and I just want to check, that this one's only a 50 kilowatt output, but it's not indicating that to me over here. It could have just been a software. It's got the same plate here on the side. This is serial number 21. Very interesting. So yeah, not sure what's going on with that. So should we talk a little bit about throughput with battery packs? Because this has been a little bit of a saving grace, but also an annoyance. A battery pack like this can really do a lot to help with installation costs. That's really the big thing. Reduce time to get it up to market, and installation costs go down. The cost of the unit goes up, maybe, although based off of what I'm seeing, it's very reasonably priced. And so it seems pretty cool. But throughput's really the problem with these. So let's look at FreeWire stations, for example. Those have what, a 60, 80 kilowatt hour battery pack in them, maybe up to 120, I don't even know. But just recently, a friend of mine rolled up to a FreeWire station, the boost charger, and he got a really big charge, and multiple people had been using it in a row, and it depleted the battery pack. And then he went down to about 10 or 15 kilowatts to his vehicle, which, okay, that really sucks because that's the maximum of the grid connection. Here we have a 180 kilowatt hour pack feeding 2 posts, and just in the amount of cars that we've seen here today, I know it would have been drained because we would have put about 90 kilowatt hours into our Model S because we're going on a road trip filming this video. We would have drained this thing hard. The Rivian was at 10%. They were going to go up to almost 100%. And just right there, this thing's out of juice. Nothing left. and it can only replenish, I believe, up to 30 kilowatts as maximum input if you just have one battery pack. And two, I believe if you stack more than 2 battery packs, then you can have sort of more input capability. And so, you know, for low to medium volume worth of traffic, it works great. And that probably is most DC fast charging installations out in cities and things like that, but not right off a highway. If you just pan over this way, you'll see, what road is this, Dad?
I-75.
Yeah, you'll see I-75 just right over here. Oh, Dad, they won't be able to hear you because the mic's right here. So if I stand close, you can explain.
I-75 and Highway 41.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
I appreciate it. And so, yeah, I just think like let's maybe think about a different type of installation for an area like this, especially when there's high power available, huge buildings around. Again, I don't know the specifics. And so there you go. That's the Jule charging station. I know they have these new ones updated in Michigan. I believe they first launched their Gen 1 chargers somewhere in northern Michigan on the Canadian border. You know, for the US side of things. Then I believe they ripped those out. They put their Gen 2 in. This is the Gen 2. This is the first Gen 2, like I mentioned. And I mean, it seems like such a great idea, really does. I would put this, you know, in so many places that we can't get big power. For example, we're moving into a new building in Fort Collins. I really want a DC fast charger. We can't actually get the power at that building. I have to put our DC fast charger at our old office, which we're still going to use, but it's not like where all the cars will be. So it's a little bit of a shame. This would work perfectly. I'd like to see higher power cables. We know they're working on it. Obviously, they recognize this is a problem. Costs go up, but the end user experience goes up, and that shouldn't be ignored. And there you go, the Jule chargers. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you them charging. Maybe I'll come back in the future. We'll make a video when it actually does work.
One small correction, it's 75 and 951, not 41.
Okay,
Apologies.
951.
Yeah, it's Collier. And
Yeah,
it's
Collier.
75,
Yeah, it's just east of Naples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is Naples.
It's Naples here, yeah. And cool, thanks for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. Thanks to Out of Spec Dave for filming. Make sure to subscribe to his channel. Actually, maybe Dad, you should come back here because I really want to come back here at the least amount possible. Maybe you should come back here and film a video when they go back online and working.
I will do that.
All right, he'll do it, and it'll be on the Out of Spec Dave YouTube channel. So stay tuned for a future Jule review by eCAMION. There's at least a review of the installation. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in another one soon. Bye-bye.